Republican Senator John Thune has said he opposes the stimulus bill in its current form and joins us now. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Nora.
Well, you heard the president just there. He said there are modest differences between the House and Senate bill. What's your take on that, and what's wrong with this bill?
I would characterize it as probably deeper differences. He said modest differences. I think the differences are fairly significant. And right now, part of it has to do with the size of it. A lot of Republicans are reacting to what is with interest over $1 trillion spending bill, but also reacting to the substance of it. Now, I think there probably is something that Republicans could support as perhaps smaller and comprised of different things, one of which would include more tax relief for middle-income families, more tax relief for small businesses, which create 2/3 of the jobs in the country, and to focus more on housing, which is what led us into this recession and what will lead us out. So I think Republicans are going to offer amendments. We're looking forward to the opportunity to debate this, but I would say that today there is a lot of resistance to it, and I think those differences are significant.
Do you think in the end there will be some Republican support for this bill?
I think if it doesn't change, Nora, I'd be very surprised if there's very much. Maybe a couple of Republicans end up voting for it, but if it is modified, if it's improved upon, if Republicans have an opportunity to have their amendments considered and in some cases even adopted, you might add a little bit to that. But at the end of the day, I don't think there will be very many Republicans voting for this unless there is some give on the part of the White House and a willingness to accept some of the ideas that Republicans are putting forward.
Let me ask you about what E.J. Dion writes in the Washington Post today, quote, on the issue of bipartisanship. He writes, quote, if achieving bipartisanship takes priority over the actual content of policy, Republicans are handed a powerful weapon. In theory, they can keep moving the bipartisan bar indefinitely, and each concession to their sensibilities threatens the solidarity in the president's own camp. Your thought on that?
I don't disagree with that. I think that whatever the president does to reach out and incorporate Republican ideas probably loses some Democrat votes on his left. And you saw that in the House. I think the House Republicans stood firm against it because it was a process that didn't include their ideas, that was designed to appeal to get Democrat votes in the House. The Senate's a different place. There will be more of an effort, I think, probably to allow for a discussion and debate of amendments. But I do believe that if the president moves in the direction of Republicans in order to secure support from some Republicans, that he also runs the risk of losing some support from Democrats. So it is a very difficult needle to thread. And at this point, I guess I wouldn't predict where this ends up, except to say that right now where we start out, the differences are pretty deep.
Senator, I want to turn now to the man that you defeated, and that is Senator Tom Daschle, who is up on the Hill today talking about his failure to pay $140,000 in taxes. It came up at the White House. It was about 40% of the questions today for the press secretary. Here's what he said in defending Tom Daschle. Let's listen.
We believe that the committee and the Senate as a whole will examine not just one mistake in a career, but look at that longer 3-decade career of public service.
Do you agree with that? Is it just one mistake?
Well, and bear in mind, it happened subsequent to his service in the Senate. He's got a long and distinguished career of public service here in the United States Senate and prior to that in the House of Representatives. But I think all members of Congress, all members of the Senate are waiting until the Finance Committee has their meeting this afternoon. The rest of us have an opportunity to examine the record and to get some of these questions answered. I will be looking forward to the opportunity to consult with some of my colleagues on the Finance Committee. I think all senators want to make sure that we're taking into consideration all the facts regarding this nomination.
So you're not ready to say that you're going to vote against him because of this?
I'm not. I think at this point it's just too early to say. I think we don't know enough at this point. I think right now we've got to let this process move forward, and part of that starts today when they have the first meeting subsequent to some of this information, more recent information coming out.
And then finally, Senator, let me ask you about one of your colleagues, Republican Senator Judd Gregg, of course, from New Hampshire. There's a lot of talk that President Obama is going to name him to be the new Commerce Secretary. And I'm sure, as you know, there's a Democratic governor in the state of New Hampshire that could mean he would choose a Democrat. Has there been talk within your conference that he should not leave unless he has it secured from the governor that a Republican will be appointed in his place?
Well, Nora, we would hate to lose Judd Gregg. He is a very, very talented member of the United States Senate and of our conference. In fact, a lot of us have joked about the fact that if he is nominated, we're going to filibuster his nomination. But I don't think at this point we know. We know he's under consideration. He's made that clear. I think there are discussions that continue. My understanding is that there is an understanding that if he vacates his seat, that it will be filled by a Republican, at least until the next election, which would be in November of 2010.
Senator John Thune, Republican of South Dakota. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Nora.